Welcome to the latest episode of the NLA National Leaderology Association podcast. We are continuing with elevating standards, the leadership blueprint based on Bill Walsh's 6 guidelines for establishing your standards of performance. I am your host, Dr. Amin Sanaia, leaderologist, thought leader, and author. As usual, my partner in crime here, Mr. Tanner Thorp.
Hello, everyone. This is Tanner Thorp, human being, thought leader, culture warrior, motivational speaker, and excited to talk about ownership.
Woo! That is going to be really good. Before we get there, just let's do a brief overview of Bill Walsh's his impact on leadership and performance. So Bill Walsh, really one of the most influential figures in the realm of team management and performance excellence. Today, as Tanner alluded to, we're going to be moving into ownership. And the journey toward organizational excellence, the concept of ownership is pivotal. Ownership is not merely about possessing a role or a set of tasks. It is about embracing the responsibility and authority that comes with expertise in one's domain. This segment will explore how culture of ownership can catalyze and really catapult your organization. So ownership, it's a great word. I know we've spoken about that in different ways. And there is something that I want us to keep in mind as we go through the questions and we do a deep dive. But ownership is really the catalyst for the organization, and it really allows for different things to happen, like innovation, accountability, and excellence. Anything you want to really set up before we go into the questions, Tanner?
No, I think you hit it right on the head. You know, ownership is when members of your team feel empowered to own their process, their product, their procedures, it truly does catapult the business into a completely different stratosphere.
Without a doubt. So let's go right into our first question. How does the empowerment associated with ownership influence an individual's approach to risk taking and innovation? And what organizational structures need to be in place to support this?
So first, I'm going to start with the second part first. You know, the organizational structure that needs to be in there is a structure of trust, a structure of we're going to support you through failure, and we're going to continue to believe in you and help you grow to the best of our abilities. Obviously, you know, if it's detrimental to the brand, we got to make changes.
Of course.
So, you know, that's where I think of as far as organizational structure, and we can dive deeper into that. But as we're talking about ownership is a very distinct word. It's a very distinct mindset.
Yes.
You know, I remember when I owned my restaurant. One of the most frustrating things to me as a business owner was that nobody cares about it like you.
Absolutely.
Because you're the owner.
Yes.
Right? You are personally, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically invested in what you're doing. Right? So when I think of ownership, that's the very first thought process that comes to mind. Does the employee, does the team member, does the person that you're empowering, do they truly feel like they own it? Right? Like they're that passionate about it that I'm going to put everything that I have my creative ability, my intellectual ability, my physical ability, my emotional ability? Am I going to put everything into it like I own it?
Well,
Because
okay, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that cannot happen if you don't have the right culture.
Absolutely. I mean, you and I talk about culture all the time. I mean, culture, I think, is the most important part of any business.
Yes.
Right? You have to have good culture. If your culture's toxic, you're just never going to get to where you potentially could get to. You'll never realize your potential as an organization, as an entity, and what your organizational identity is. So culture is the lifeblood to any organization, and organizations with good culture empower people to own their pieces of the business better than anywhere else.
Yes.
And I was listening to a talk by Simon Sinek earlier today, and he was talking about institutional knowledge essentially, and the example that he used was there was a submarine driver, and this guy was like the best at parking the submarine. So every time they came into port, they would bring him and he would park the submarine, right? Well, then the captain realized, what happens if he gets transferred off the boat, if he gets sick, if something happens to him, who's going to park my submarine? Right? So they brought in another person, and this person failed miserably. I mean, first time, ran into the dock. I don't know what really happened, but the person was not a good submarine parker.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the captain said, I can either acquiesce to this small defeat and I can just go back to the easy route, and I can, get my, my good submarine parker and we'll just table what we were trying to do. Or I can empower this person and give them ownership over this and stand beside them and walk with them while they become a great submarine parker.
Yes.
And that's what they did. And as soon as that person became an expert at parking the submarine, then they went and got someone else, so they could just have those layers, and letting that second person own, this is your role now. You are responsible for parking the submarine, right? And if you fail, we're gonna walk beside you, right? Yep. And when you succeed, we're gonna celebrate you.
Absolutely.
And that goes back to culture.
Yeah, I mean, just so and that story right there, you can see the proactivity from the captain being proactive. He's like, okay, let's get ahead of this, because at some point we're going to, cross that road at some point. So why don't we do it on our terms versus in someone else's terms? But then he also was able to have the ability to allow for someone to grow within their roles.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many times have we seen this in organizations where it's like, okay, I'm going to plant this seed, we'll put the soil, put a little bit of water, and then every 5 seconds, did it grow? Did it grow? Did it grow? I mean,
or we plant that seed, we give it some soil, we give it a little bit of water, and then we walk away from it, and we never water it again.
Yes.
I mean, you and I have been in a number of organizations now where we see that. We have the best intentions,
yes,
to nurture and grow our teams, but then we don't effectively follow through with it.
Yeah, the commitment. Where's that commitment?
Yeah.
Where's that commitment? So
yeah.
that commitment, and then from that person's point of view, is having the resilience to fail but not give up, fail
Yep.
but not give up, fail but not give up. And as every failure happens, what are you learning? Are you failing the same way, or is because you learned from your last one, now you're trying something different to see if you can get there?
Yeah.
So those are different steps that leaders can take. And I love the story that you brought up. And it really truly talks about having the right culture and the right setting for someone to be able to, really be successful.
Well, and
Go
also
ahead.
having the understanding that nobody should be the pillar that holds up the organization,
Oh, absolutely not. It cannot be
right?
on one
Like
person. Yeah.
yeah, if you are the one that holds your, if you are the sole piece that holds your area, your department, your business together, you're failing.
Without a doubt.
You're failing.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Your organization has to, you have to have different layers, different subsets that are going to allow for anyone that can need to have an emergency, be out sick, or go on an extended vacation, and the organization still is able to thrive. It has to
Yeah.
be able to function because it cannot be about one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I also really like what you said about, the person who is owning the process, they have to have resilience. And along with that resilience, they have to feel supported,
Yes.
right? Like if they fail, what is the conversation you as a leader are having with them?
Hmm.
Are you admonishing them, you know, and making them feel bad about the failure?
Yep.
Or are you supporting them through it and saying, hey, this isn't exactly the process that we wanted, this isn't exactly the results that we're looking for, but I believe in you, and I gave you this ownership of this process because I know that you can do it. And if it takes 5 times to get there or 10 times to get there, we're going to get there together.
Yep. I mean, talk about building that trust, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, you know, between your career and my career, we have what I would easily describe as fiercely loyal um, team members, fiercely loyal.
Yes.
I'll fiercely loyal followers
Hmm.
that would follow us to. I mean, in the culinary world, I have people that will follow me into the trenches of hell. You know,
Oh, let's go to Hell's Kitchen.
right? And I know you do too. And it's because we've fostered and nurtured those types of relationships of,
Yes.
we're going to get there and we're going to get there together. And at the
Yep.
end, it's not going to be me standing on the mountain with Tanner's flag saying, look what Tanner did.
No.
It's going to be me standing beside my team saying, look what we did.
Yep.
Right. And you owned this piece and you owned that piece and you owned the other piece. And we all supported each other and came together to make it happen.
Absolutely, and that's the way. That's the beauty of when you're a true leader and you're able to really rally the troops and bring your team to achieve different milestones. It's you're doing it together and you celebrate
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the good stuff is, right? Nobody wants to be the person alone on the island,
Hmm.
you
Absolutely.
know, with my volleyball Wilson and like just me and Wilson hanging out.
Wilson. So the first piece of that question, talks about individuals' approach to risk taking and innovation. Um, that that is that cannot happen if you're not able to empower those individuals and let them feel that they own it, that it's theirs, that it's truly
Yeah.
something that they have a buy-in and a say in how this gets delivered.
Yep. Yeah, they have to have stake in it. And you have to know your people, right? I mean, the because when we're talking about risk taking and we're talking about innovation,
Yes.
um, some people are gregarious, some people are extroverted, some people are outgoing. Some people,
Yes.
they take challenges on and they take big bites, right? And they're excited to get into it. Other people are much more reserved,
Yes.
introverted, You know, they're scared of making a mistake because they may have had bad leaders before. So in that, there's apprehension and concern about, gosh, what, you know, they're saying that they trust me in this, but what if, you know, I make that mistake and they really don't trust me, and, you know, I get chewed out for it, or I get in trouble for it. So, you know, you really have to know your people too, because, you know, in order to empower them, you have to meet them at their level.
Yes.
You know, you set your expectations, and your expectations need to be very clearly, you know, what you want. Unexpressed needs rarely get met. You know, your expectations should be crystal clear, right? But you also have to understand how they're going to get there to the best of your ability and your understanding of them.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's what we alluded to at the beginning. It's creating that fail-safe environment where experimentation is encouraged. It's not only,
Yeah.
you know, accepted, but it's encouraged.
Yeah.
Let people try stuff. And failures are viewed as learning opportunities, not as, you know, something negative where, oh, now I'm gonna lose my job.
Right. If that's the thought, if that's the thought going into anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I mess up, I'm going to lose my job.
Yep.
I would examine your culture right away.
Yeah. Yeah. That you have the wrong culture.
You got the wrong culture. You know, I mean, if you're at fear that you're going to lose your job around every turn, something's wrong in your company's DNA right there.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. That this leads us to our second question. In what ways can leaders differentiate between fostering a sense of ownership and overburdening team members? And how does this balance affect long-term team dynamics and expertise development?
Well, you know, it's a fine line. It's a fine line for type A individuals of success and burnout. But not everybody's type A.
Exactly.
So, you know, again, it goes back to knowing your team. But also when you're differentiating um between, you know, overburdening and ownership, I think it really goes back to clearly defining what you're trying to get done. But it also you have to recognize what burdens your team is carrying already, right? So I was having a conversation with a leader last week, and they're in budget season right now. They have a lot of extra office work that they need to do, but they're also overseeing 4 different departments, right? And the expectation is that they're hands-on with these 4 departments. They're relatively big departments, you know, overseeing vast different areas of the business. So this leader was saying to me, I don't know how I'm supposed to get the stuff that I need to get done in my office, and I'm supposed to get done the stuff that I'm supposed to be present on in all these departments for. Like, I can't divide myself. You know, the operational needs are taking up 8 to 10 hours a day, but the office needs and the things that I need to do there, you know, that's another 6-hour requirement daily to meet the deadlines that I have to meet. And I don't want to. They said I don't want to take the work home because it's having a detrimental impact on my family life. Because, you know, all I'm doing is I'm not spending any free time with my family. I'm, you know, sitting on my laptop and I'm working on these things that need to get done because there's just not enough hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
That leader, I would easily say, is right now is, I don't know if overburdened is the right term. I would say overwhelmed. And I think there's a distinction there between overburdened and overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a mindset, right?
Yes.
Overburdened, I believe, is task oriented.
Yes.
So the advice that I gave this leader is you need to figure out, you need to sit down with a schedule and figure out when are your quiet times? When do you not need to be in these operational areas? And you need to just block off your calendar, lock your door, and get your office work done.
Yep.
And know that, you know, the rest of the team supports you, right? If there's something that you know, one of my team members can do, or I can do, or a different leader can do to step in and help you, you have that support there as well. So I think, you know, when we're talking about overburdening, we need to look at the tasks that we're putting on our leaders, because if we want them to truly own the process, we need to give them time to be an owner, right? Which means we may need to pull some tasks away from them so that they can truly own what we're asking them to do. Because again, ownership is completely different than just managing a process. You know, it's owning it takes a different mindset. It takes a different emotional attachment. It takes a different, you know, mental attachment. And so, you know, I think it's really important that when you identify somebody that you are going to give ownership to, that you trust in that way, you have to look at what their workload is already, and make sure that they have the emotional and mental investment to be able to put into it.
I agree with a lot of what you said. Obviously, maintaining open lines of communication is important. And the fact that that leader had the trust in being able to go to you and have those open conversations, it's really commendable. But also, it says a lot about them that they're able to really voice those concerns. Um, so that's one piece that I'm really you know that I was going to talk about. But also, one of the things that would help a leader in that situation is having regular check-ins with their team members, their direct reports, but also their leader,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to communicate that balance where, hey, you know, this is what's going on. These are my pain points right this second. Um, how do we work through something like this?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, effective communication is it's vital to moving things forward. It's vital to a positive work environment
Mm-hmm.
where again, culture is the backbone, where you're not feeling like, you know, you're just a cog in a machine, right?
Yep.
But you have to
Yep.
be able to, yeah, you have to be able to express it. You know, again, unexpressed needs rarely get met. So
Without a doubt.
if you're feeling overwhelmed, and you're, to your point, and you're not going to your leader, and you're not going to your leaders that you've empowered to lead the different areas that you need, that you're leading, um uh, you're just going to be ineffective.
Oh yes, and that's uh, where I love what you said about uh, being overwhelmed and overburdening is really different, and the mindset has a lot to do with
Mm-hmm.
that. So yes, at times we just need to take our mindset, you know, off the equation and really look at things from a different point of view, and giving them the advice to really look at their schedules. And that's why I'm so big on schedules, having a sort of structure. uh, so one of the things that's helped me throughout my career is having the mindset of at least once a week, usually it's on a Sunday, that I really look at the upcoming week, either Sunday night or Monday morning. I don't like to do it Monday morning because, you know, the week already started. I usually like to do it at some point on Sunday. It allows me to get on the right mindset, and I know, hey, Tuesday looks really heavy, so let me make sure that I'm prepared to handle all that is going to happen on that day. And being able to get ahead a little bit just prepares you on a day-to-day for what's upcoming. And I think leaders, as they grow in their roles, need to understand that and really use different techniques, whatever works for them. I know for certain people, they love just looking at, taking the first 10-15 minutes of their morning to look at their schedule for the day.
Mhm.
I couldn't, I am out, for me, it has to be a week ahead, because I have so much going on that I really need to be able to pivot in case something happens. But whatever it is, that cadence that works, for each individual, they need to have something instead of just allowing for the day to happen, right? So
Yep.
we're just waiting for something to happen and then react. That's when you get to that point of being overwhelmed, because you're just letting things happen instead of trying to get ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So true.
Yep, yep. And the other point where we talked about, really having effective delegation. So when you're overseeing people um, as a leader, we work through people.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the main concept. So we have to be effective in that sense, where it's not about me, it's about we. How do we
Hmm.
win together? How do we, how do we go through the pains and struggles together? And again, it's a mindset of really looking at it from a different perspective, putting your thoughts and feelings away, taking a step back and looking at the situation, uh more methodical, and be like, okay, what should happen in this case here? And that'll help leaders in those situations when they're really, well, it's usually happens when the leaders just way too in the trenches and not being able to really look at everything, and they're only seeing parts of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, look, but I've been in that place in my own career where I have been the pillar holding up the area that I was in, and very control oriented, because I didn't, as a young leader, I didn't trust others to do
Mhm.
what I knew I could do, because I was strong in my skill set. And that's one that's not fair to the people around me, right? They
Mhm.
didn't come to work just to be a cog in a machine again. Um, but also, it wasn't fair to me. One of the best lessons I learned was how to properly delegate, and how to empower my team, right? And how to walk with them. And I can't, I can't state this enough. As a leader, your ability to walk with your team is one of the greatest emotional intelligent pieces that you can have,
Without a doubt.
right? They feel supported,
Mhm.
and they will do anything for you, right? They're engaged because they care about what's happening, not because they're just managing a process, right? We don't want managers.
I don't know. That's
We don't want managers. We want leaders.
yep. You got to be able to grow people. That's
Yeah.
what leaders do. Leaders
Yeah.
grow other leaders.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I've said it for years. I never want to cage my birds,
Oh no,
right?
absolutely not.
I want them to fly as free and as far and as high as they possibly can, right? And just knowing that I had a piece of it, that I got to help them in some way grow as leaders, and they go on and do great things. That's where all the good stuff is. That's the marrow.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we're at a point here where I think we should start wrapping it up. Final thoughts on ownership.
Final thoughts on ownership. So, we covered a lot of really good stuff here, and I think the most important thing when we're talking about ownership and empowering our teams to own something is to really let them know that the reason they are owning that process is because we believe in them. It is because we see something strong in them, and we want to grow them. And we want them to bring the passion that we've obviously identified to owning whatever the thing is that we're putting them in charge of. And then supporting them through it, and truly walking beside them, that if there's a mistake that happens, we come together and we learn from it and we grow from it and we try again.
Lovely. Love those words. So as we were talking, I was taking some notes, and there's some words that I want to use here as we wrap up. First, being proactive. So in the story that you talked about from the captain, proactivity. Let's allow team members that really take initiative, identify them, and allow them to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability. Okay. We need to be accountable, taking responsibility for both not only success, but also the failures. Because that's where the learning comes from. It's when we fail. Commitment. Are we building that culture of we trust people and we can get them to buy in to what we're doing? That commitment level is important. Obviously, innovation, because that's something that we mentioned throughout. But the last one, and it's one of my favorite words, and it's probably an adjective next to my name: resilience. Resilience. Yeah. It's are you able to really face those setbacks and just plow through? Keep it coming and keep it going. Is having that resilience mindset. Ownership it's one of the topics that I think leaders should really revisit from time to time to see where they are and where their team is as far as owning their pieces, or us leaders owning our pieces. All right, so this is ownership. We still have a couple more of Bill Walsh's guidelines, and then we'll jump into something that I promised a few episodes ago, but we got two more to go, and then we'll move forward. Thank you for listening to us. Keep on tuning in, and we'll be back with two more of Bill Walsh's 6 guidelines.
Thank you.